Living Waters presents On the Box.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of On the Box. I do not have fleas, and our knees did not touch.
Yeah, I think you might have fleas, Tony. You got some bites on your arm.
I do.
Yeah, well, if they give
And
you...
we don't have any pets at home, so...
It could be an infestation of fleas, but if they're
I
on
think
your body...
this is an HR situation.
They'll go to your back and never find their way out.
I might have more pets than I think.
Yeah.
So what are you doing today?
I went to Cerritos College and
And?
took my camera, and it was just marvelous. Yesterday I got attacked by a professor who grabbed the camera and got real
I think
upset.
I'd rather be attacked by fleas.
And and today I was walking along and a student gave me your number one sign with his hand. So I was
A one-finger salute.
I was very encouraged. But I got three very good interviews, four good interviews, but three were just wonderful. People whose hearts obviously prepared by the Lord, humble of heart, just thirsting for righteousness, and it was wonderful. And found out what yesterday's smell was.
Now, let's give a little bit of context here. Yesterday, we had a very...
An attack.
An attack. We had a squirrel moment.
Yes.
It was an odiferous squirrel moment where we all smelled something good cooking coming through the vents.
Oh, eternal salivation.
And we accused Eddie initially.
Yeah, and then I accused Dale because he had some food in there.
Yes.
But it was upstairs and it was...
Leslie's!
Leslie, see it's written there. Lean cuisine, chicken ranch club, flatbread melt.
Man, that sounds good.
Chicken parmesan, breaded white meat chicken, dead chicken. Patty with spaghetti and a chunky tomato basil sauce. That's what smelled so good.
Oh, man, am I hungry now.
Yeah.
Wow. Mark, what are you doing today?
Oh, I'm just trying to breathe. I pulled a muscle in my back.
And how'd you do it? It wasn't kettlebells. Be honest, you're old now. You're 40.
I sneezed.
Welcome to the downhill.
I did that.
I sneezed and I pulled a muscle around my lungs, and it's hard to breathe. Don't make me laugh.
No. I did that a few days ago. I sneezed and my upper back went out.
Where to?
Is Mark ticklish?
Oh, don't even talk about it.
Is Mark ticklish?
No, he doesn't want to breathe or laugh, so just be careful. No, we have to
All
be
right,
sensitive
okay.
to Mark
We love Mark,
today.
so we're not going to try to make
No
him giggle too
humour on
much.
today's show.
We-
No, for Mark's sake.
Okay.
We don't want to cause our brother
Well,
to
let's
stumble.
Let's start with a story then that is not
It's not funny.
This
Yeah.
is not funny. This comes to us from ABC News, written by Ashley Jennings. I wonder if she's related to Peter Jennings.
Squirrel.
But you know Peter Jennings? Is he still
Yes.
alive?
One of them died. I don't know which one.
Well, there's more than one. Yeah, there's several.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From that elk.
Old.
Yeah.
From that era.
Yeah.
Not
Elk?
elk.
Ilk.
Elk are in.
No, ilk is another word
Elk?
for era.
Oh,
It's
you're not talking
space
about
of time.
the big horn
No,
things.
yeah.
No.
Told you set Mark off.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyways, this is from Ashley Jennings, who may or may not be related to Peter Jennings, but works for ABC News. I think Peter works for ABC News too.
What's that?
JCPenney features same-sex couple in May catalog. 15 years ago, when advertisers got wind that Ellen DeGeneres was going to come out on her popular sitcom show Ellen, some advertisers fled. Flash forward to one of their newest clothing ads in the May catalog. It features a real-life same-sex couple. The photograph is of two models identified as Wendy and Maggie holding their two daughters. Both women appear to be wearing wedding bands. Quietly, gradually, and largely without protest, advertising is starting to reflect new attitudes and new realities about who we are. Quote, our cultures change, and I think the broader consumer and the spending power in the country has become more progressive. End quote. Eric Bovim, CEO of the ad firm Gibraltar Associates. There are gay couples on primetime television shows, and now gay couples are coming out of Madison Avenue's closet, which, according to Bovim, gives way to a new target audience. I can't read any more. What do you think, Ray?
That's today's. Oh, that yeah, yeah. I'm upset, but we just got to preach the gospel. Got to see the hearts of this nation changed by the church rising up and being salt and light. We're like a nation without a lighthouse, a nation in darkness.
There's no lighthouse in the White House, that's for
no
sure.
lighthouse in the White House, but the church is the lighthouse.
Yes.
And we're supposed to rise up and let a light shine, not really just be involved in politics, but we're supposed to preach the gospel to every creature. Jesus said, let your light shine before men. So That's what the church has to do. Get up and preach.
Mark?
I mean, that's exactly it. We got to be doing what we know we need to be doing. Do what you know, and you'll know what to do. And what we need to be doing is not so much protesting, though there's nothing wrong necessarily with protesting. I mean, if given the option, JCPenney's not going to be my first option of shopping at that place.
Wasn't mine last night. I had to buy some clothes for a trip, and usually we go to JCPenney's, but we didn't.
Right. Yeah, see, there you go. I mean, if given the first choice, JCPenney's not it, but I'm not going to boycott JCPenney. What I need to do is preach the gospel. We see that there's lost people in the midst of that place that need the gospel all the same. I mean, I'd love to support an entire Christian ministry that they only hire Christians, they get Christians to make all their clothes. I mean, do good to all, especially those of the household of faith. But guess what? I don't need to be handing out tracts inside of a place that only Christians shop there and only Christian workers work there. So I'd rather, with that angle, head over to JCPenney and hand out gospel tracts and engage in conversation. So we need to be figuring out and thinking, what do we need to be doing? Well, Ray hit it. We need to preach the gospel. We are light and salt in this dark and bitter world. So we need to go and shine our light and have a savory taste, which ultimately is bitter to people who reject God. But God knows those who will inherit salvation. So we need to preach the gospel. That's what we need to do. And we need to practice personal holiness. We need to practice spiritual disciplines. We as a staff here are going through Ken Hughes's book, The Disciplines of a Godly Man. So, man, I want to recommend that to you. If you've never gone through a book where you are practicing disciplines or you don't know what the disciplines are, man, grab a hold of that book. It's a great book so far as we begin to go through it. We're only on chapter 2, heading into chapter 3 this week.
So, Mr. Spence, you're a real trooper. He was in pain then, but he gave us all.
And he did it without breathing.
And we're going to cross now to... I hope this is not funny, this next video.
Oh, we're not there yet, Ray.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of Mark, though. I'm worried for him.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, he's probably already seen it, but...
Okay, so, yeah.
Yeah.
So what were you going to say?
Well, I was going to say that one of the things that annoys me is how surprised Christians are that things like this with JCPenney's is happening. They seem to think that we're living in some type of utopian world where, sin doesn't abound and depravity doesn't rear its ugly head in every corner. I mean, the JCPenney and other unbelievers, homosexuals, robbers, thieves, adulterers, they're all doing what by nature they're going to do. They're going to sin.
And most of those catalogs, I can't look through them because they're like little porn catalogs in the ladies' underwear section. So now it's moved from acceptable sin to unacceptable sin.
Absolutely. And just a comment on that, Easy had said that he believes that the most damaging magazine out there would not be something that has a woman with no clothes on, but rather very little amount of clothes on there. Because that's really where it'll begin after it starts within your thoughts, where you have to now imagine what somebody looks like without wearing those clothes. That's why you need to take every thought captive, as men or as a woman. So we need to be careful what we put each other around and hold each other accountable. There you go.
Very good. All right, we're going to move on to...
No, that means do this.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, step means I made a mistake.
First of all, I have to learn how to read your writing.
Yeah, what's the New Zealand accent?
You write as fast as you walk, as fast as you talk, as fast as you preach.
Yeah.
And I can't... you're like a doctor.
Stet means that it's an
What's
editing word, which means forget it. I didn't mean it, so I was wrong.
Stet?
Yeah, stet.
Stet.
It's editors use it. Yes, it means overlook.
The editor uses stet?
Yes, it means overlook what I just did. No, an editor that writes and does in a book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it just means I crossed it out by mistake.
What does it stand for?
It's Latin.
It's Latin?
I suppose. Yeah.
We're going to continue. This is from Travis, and this goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. How can I actively reach out to the homosexual community in love while taking a stand for truth? I'm looking for practical ways I can, quote-unquote, befriend them and share Christ with them without compromising truth. I really don't see how that's possible because as soon as many of them know I am a Bible-believing and practicing Christian, they will most likely turn away from me. I understand that by sharing with them the truth, I am showing them love, but is there a way to earn their trust and undo the idea of quote-unquote hate that they believe Christians have for them? That is from Travis. I believe Travis to be sincere, but he is sincerely wrong.
Yeah, this has brought back memories to me. 1991, I think it was, I was flown up to San Francisco to preach for a church, but I was preaching in the heart of the city of San Francisco, right in the shopping center area. And big stores, big buildings. And just before I got to preach, I sat down on a bench, and there was a guy sitting along from me, and I said, "How you doing?" He said, "How you doing?" I said, "Good." He said, "Would you like some lunch?" I said, "No, thanks." He said, "I'd like to buy you lunch." I said, "No, I don't want any lunch." And he got up to go and get me some lunch, and I ran away. So, Travis, I'd be very careful in befriending homosexuals that you make sure they know that you're a Christian right at the beginning. And you've got here, they would most likely. This is your imagination speaking. Right. I've witnessed to lots of homosexuals. They're nice folks. They're just like everybody else, except they're homosexuals. So be very, very clear in your understanding of how you want to witness to someone who says, "No, I've never lusted after a woman," say you're homosexual. Yeah. Don't get upset. Don't freak out. Don't say homosexuals have got to hell or anything like that. Just take him through the commandments and show him he's in big trouble despite his sexual orientation that you don't really want to know about anyway. 1 Timothy chapter 1, verses 8 through 10 says the law was made for homosexuals. They're in the list. So take them through the moral law, take them through the Ten Commandments, and you'll find they'll often thank you and say, "I appreciate talking to you," without even getting to this.
That's been my experience too.
Yeah.
And I think have no reason to believe that Travis is anything but sincere, but what he wrote here speaks to something unspoken in the American church by and large, and it's the notion that the gospel needs our help.
Yeah.
That it's sharing the gospel plus being their friend. It's sharing the gospel plus not offending them. It's sharing the gospel plus being accepted by them. That's not evangelism. Anything you add to the gospel of Jesus Christ somehow dilutes the gospel of Jesus Christ. Now, that's not to say that we shouldn't try to be friendly with people. We should be. We should be friendly with everybody we meet. We should love our enemies.
When you share the gospel with someone, I wasn't pointing anything. When you share the gospel with someone, you are showing them love.
Yes,
you are doing
that's the
something
most loving thing you can
good.
do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So don't offend God by practically saying that your gospel's not enough to change lives. They need my ability to be friendly and courteous and kind in addition to the gospel for them to come to repentance and faith. And
also the profile you see of homosexuals often portrayed on secular television isn't the normal homosexual. Right. They're the radicals that paint their faces and run around abusing Christians. And they're like, the media like to show the radical hate-mongering Christians also, so they like extremes. So get that image out of your mind and just see a homosexual as being a normal person like you and I with a sexual orientation that's different, that's abhorrent to God.
I mean, that's exactly right. I think for me, I just pull a deaf ear when I hear or see or suspect that somebody is a homosexual. It's the gospel that is the power of God unto salvation. So we can't water that down. We have to be quick to try to even pull that out when we can. I had led a team on Friday night out to the block, and I was telling the team what my goal was for the night, because I always try to set up a goal for the night. I'm going to hand out a certain amount of tracts or talk to a certain type of person, and the type of people that I was looking for to talk to were young kids that were playing tonsil hockey out in front of everybody, which is kissing. They were making out. Boy. So I go, I'm going to try to hit up the kids that are doing that. I was walking around, I go, I can't find anybody that's doing that, until I went over to Corner Bakery, almost to call it quits, to have dinner with my son, and there was the young couple that were doing that. Because I just think if that's what they're going to do in public, what do they do in private? They're going to be storing up all kinds of baggage for the later years. So that's who I was hitting up. So when I come across somebody who is a homosexual or a heterosexual, it really doesn't matter. I want to stick to the plan. I want to use the law to bring the knowledge of sin, pave the way for the cross and grace and mercy and the resurrection of my Savior. And I think that's what we need to do.
Amen. All right, this day number 3 of 30 Failed Sunrises with Mark Spivman and David Shannon of Crown Rights Media, which is crownrights.org or com. What is it, Danny? We have that? It'll work on it. Okay. We got plenty of time.
It'll be on the screen, won't it?
There it is, crownrights.org for Crown Rights Media. Here's day number 3 of 30 Failed Sunrises.
You want the truck in the shot?
No, I want the sun to rise right over. Well, it's gonna rise right about here. Hey, move over some more. Yeah, right there. It'll come from over here. It'll rise over there.
I mean, who shoots with a sunrise with a truck in the shot?
Exactly, nobody. That's why we're gonna do it. Level it up right. Don't you have a... Okay, stop! What's wrong with you? All right, here we go. What do you think about that? I mean, think about it. When's the last time you went and you saw a sunrise on a mountain or at a beach? I don't do that. Exactly. Where do you see sunrises at? On your way to work. Right? That's right. And sometimes on your way to work, there might just be an ugly truck in your way. See, this is raw. This is realistic. You don't have fake junk, man.
Stupid.
Oh, they make me feel so intelligent. All right, speaking of intelligence, we have an image here of 3 quotes. I think Danny separated the 3, and then we'll bring them back together. At least that's what Danny promised. A statement from Warren Buffett, who's very, very, or not from Warren Buffett, but about Warren Buffett. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at 3 statements, one about Warren Buffett, one about Bill Gates, and one about Pat Robertson. And John Speed posted this on Facebook. Someone else had put this together, some atheist or something like that. But John Speed's asking the question on Facebook, what logical fallacy do you see when these 3 comments are set up together? So let's take a look at those comments one by one. First one by Warren Buffett, who is not with crownrights.org. The 3rd richest person in the world pledged to give 99% of his wealth to charity. Warren Buffett is good without God. Are you? Next one is attributed to Bill Gates. Not that he said it, but about him. 2nd richest person in the world. Donated over $26 billion to charity. Bill Gates is good without God. Are you? And then a statement about Pat Robertson. The wealthiest evangelical Christian in the world has donated almost nothing in his entire career and utilizes slave labor in a diamond mine in Africa. Pat Robertson is a cruel, heartless man. So, Mark, why don't you pull yourself together? Did that hurt, buddy? Mark? Mark!
No.
All right, so Mark, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. There are actually more than one logical fallacies going on here. What comes to mind for you?
Boy, there are so many things wrong with this picture that I absolutely love it. I mean, this is the best you've got. This is what you're trying to do to win over Christians to atheism, or I don't know what you're really trying to do, but it's just beyond silly. There are so many logical fallacies going on here, and there's so many points of contention that I would make. I would love to be in a debate and them to pull this up as their argument. Brian Regan has this bit. He's a comedian who he's known as a clean comedian. When he does this little spiff about doing a debate with someone who doesn't know how to speak. And he gives all of his time over to his opponent trying to win over the audience by trying to speak, but he doesn't know how to speak. So he says, hey, I'd like to just give my opponent the remainder of my time to speak, knowing that his opponent can't speak. Well, that's kind of what I feel like here. I mean, so everything you want to say, I just want to have you keep talking. I want more pictures to be given like this because it is so absurd. I started taking notes, and then I just kind of gave up. Before I get into the fallacies, and I think we can do that together, I'd like to bring out some points of contention here that I don't know if you've seen it as you went through that, but it's absolutely silly. So what is the standard by which one is calling good? Apparently, according to this picture, the standard of good is giving away piles of money in your old age, yet still remaining rich while you give away this money. That's the standard of good?
That's
and
what they put up.
Exactly, and I didn't know that there was a standard of good and bad in the atheistic community. Because I think that you should be getting down on Warren Buffett and Bill Gates for giving away their money when isn't your moral code one of survival of the fittest? I mean, why are you giving money to the poor when you want the poor to die off? I mean, once again, that becomes ridiculous. And then you begin to look at Pat Robertson. All right, here's a guy. I don't even know if this guy is an evangelical Christian. I don't know what his theological beliefs are. So I can't even comment on that. But how do you know, Mr. Atheist, how much money he's given away? Because really, there is an underwritten code within Christianity to not allow your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Well, we have access to what he's given in his taxes to charitable organizations. Okay, great. Do you have access to what he's given away in private? Because I know people who refuse to allow the government to know how much money they've given away. They give away anonymously. So we can see somebody giving away in their abundance, but yet they're still rich, and somebody can give away as a poor individual. We have the story of the woman with the 2 mites. And she gave away out of her abundance, but really out of her poverty. She didn't have anything to give, and she gave anyways. So you have to be omniscient. In essence, Mr. Atheist, you have to be God to say that Pat Robertson hasn't given away anything. Here's the richest evangelical Christian. I don't even know the validity to that statement, but how can you say that he hasn't given anything? Next, why is it good to give away money? I mean, I guess we can deal with the logical fallacy at this point. It's the what if, the either or fallacy, or the false dilemma. You're offering up, all right, if you're giving away money, you're good. If you don't give away money, you're bad. This fallacy of the either or, what happens to a third option? And there is a third option, by the way, on defining what good is, and God defines what good is. You've broken his moral law, his code. If you're going to say you're only good if you're giving away money, well, then you're looking down at a little child. You would never be able to say that little child is good. Now, I wouldn't do that, but you could never do that. You could never say, hey, that's a good little boy. Why? Because he doesn't have millions or billions of dollars in this case to be able to give away money. The straw man fallacy is oversimplifying or exaggerating the case here, and you're not allowing your opponent a means by which he can bring a rebuttal. It comes from a boxing term where a boxer would set up a straw man figure and then hit it over without the opponent now being able to come back at you. So Pat Robertson cannot defend himself in this case. So you have to have access to Pat Robertson and what he thinks, what he does, and you actually don't do that. And then here, this is my favorite fallacy that I think that is committed here. It's an appeal to authority or improper authority. Why is it that Bill Gates and Warren Buffett now have the authority as to what is good? You're saying because they have money, they are good. Well, that's ridiculous. That's like saying, hey, Einstein, because he's an authority in certain areas, he's also an authority when it comes to morality. Ridiculous. It's a logical fallacy. It doesn't make sense. So riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivers from death. I think we could actually do a whole show on this. I know we have a couple minutes left. I know you guys want to tackle this, but it's absolutely silly. There is a standard for good and bad. God comes up with that standard because you and I have different standards of good and bad. You'll never measure up to mine, and I'll probably never measure up to yours. God has a standard, and that's the standard by which God is going to judge, which is his law, the Ten Commandments.
It's interesting. If we go by their moral standard of Bill Gates and Warren Buffett being good because they're rich and they give away a lot of money, then just about every dictator has been rich over the years and, quote-unquote, given to the poor benevolently from one time or another to try to clean up their appearance before the people. Just about every organized crime family is involved in charitable work of one kind or another. The Hells Angels, the most notorious outlaw motorcycle gang, they're doing toy drives for kids all of the time out of their wealth, their filthy lucre raised up by criminal enterprise. They now want to go clean up their image with the population at large, so they give out of the abundance of their wealth to kids who need toys at Christmas.
And where did the wealth come from? Exactly.
Now, of course, we're not accusing Warren Buffett or Bill Gates of illicit gain. You know, they worked hard, they invested, they're bright and intelligent men. But if they are the standard, rich guys giving away lots of money, then we have to include the Hells Angels, dictators, and other organized crime families in the same group with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett as the definition of good. And it falls down on its face.
And also, when we want to talk about good, God's standard of goodness is seen by the motive in which we give.
Right.
Some people can
Moral
give out
perfection.
they can give out a sense of guilt. Like often Hollywood stars, as they get older, want to give back to society, so they give money away. And what they're doing is trying to appease their conscience regarding an adulterous lifestyle area when they were younger. So the motive is very important when it comes to God.
Yeah. We only got a couple minutes left. Mark, by chance, are there any questions coming out of the chat room?
Oh, yeah. Does Ray hide squirrels in his beard? Was the only question I saw him there. I guess I'll ask now, because he's always pulling out the squirrel bit.
It's just the way I
What a
am.
way to end the show.
I cannot,
Isn't that wonderful?
I cannot help it. I actually was riding my bike to work and I saw a squirrel run across a wire and I thought, squirrel! And I pulled over. I thought,
You pulled over for the squirrel on the
yeah,
wire.
well, I just thought, that's
It wasn't
cool.
in a way you were going to run over? Oh, you just to admire the squirrel
Yeah,
on the
I
wire.
love squirrels. I think they're great.
Yeah?
They're marvelous little creatures.
All right, so here's one that came in. Will God judge the world for breaking... and I just lost it, but basically it was, will God judge the world for rejecting Jesus or for breaking his law?
Yes.
Which is it?
Yes, because rejecting Jesus is breaking his law. You will have no other gods but the one true God. You will make no graven images to bow down and worship them.
That's a thought.
Right? If you do not worship Jesus Christ and him alone as your Lord and your Savior, you have broken God's law, you have denied Christ, you're going to hell 2 times over.
2 times
I don't know,
over.
what do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, Ray has a great illustration. I thought he was going to pull it out with the parachute analogy. I mean, when you jump out of a plane, why do you die? Is it because, Ray, why don't you tell it? I'll chop it up for you.
Yeah, you don't die because you didn't put on a parachute. You die because you're going to suffer the consequences of the law of gravity. And that's why we'll end up in hell, not because we rejected Jesus, but because we suffer the full consequences of our sin. Sin is transgression of the law. That's what sin is. Sin isn't failure to accept Jesus. And the other analogy is, if you're in Africa and you see a native tribe there, they've never heard of Jesus, therefore they have never sinned, because they've never rejected Jesus. As soon as you preach to them and they reject Jesus, then they're going to hell, and you caused it.
Right.
Because now they reject Jesus, so it's a fallacy that often the world justifiably says, what are you talking about? I'm going to hell because I'm rejecting someone I've never heard of. It doesn't make sense. But transgression of the law does make sense to them because their conscience bears witness. So sin is transgression of the law and not rejecting Jesus.
All right. Till tomorrow, be encouraged, strengthened, and unafraid. Proclaim the gospel. Yeah.
Whoa! Bullseye!
You're full of it!
Living Waters presents On the Box.